Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode on the Travel Collective, where I chat with travelers, chat with authors, and share all the interesting things that I enjoy. So I was happy to discover Rhiannon, who's a Las Vegas author, but she has a huge love for travel and exploring all the stuff that's right up my alley. So welcome, Rhiannon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So first question is, what inspired you to put your travels into a book?
Um, well, I traveled for many years, lived abroad, been to like 45 countries and worked on a cruise ship. And so kind of lived in six different countries. So I'd always kind of lived a life where people were like, man, you should write a book. And I'd had a travel blog for a while. So I was kind of used to writing about my travel experiences. But I never quite found something that I felt I could turn into a book, because it's one thing to travel a lot, but to actually have a story that you think people would not only want to read but like want to and read. I It took me, many years of just living life to really stumble upon something that I really felt like I could write about. And I'd always wanted to write about my anxiety, because that's been a big part of my life, since birth, really. Um, so it wasn't until I had a major breakup, and then I climbed one of the tallest mountains in the world, Mount Whitney, and then I don't want to spoil it ending, but kind of had a
Yeah, don't do that.
happily ever after. And so I felt like it really kind of fit that narrative fit like a book. It was like a beginning and a middle and an end. And it seemed like it had enough of a story arc that it would be appealing to people, but that it also played on the themes of anxiety and how I overcame it and how I learned to be more vulnerable and brave. So yeah, I'd always wanted to write a book since childhood. It was definitely on my bucket list, but I finally got around to it, a few years ago, and was just like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I wrote the whole book in a month, actually. During every November, they have National Write a Novel Month. No, National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, and people all over the world participate, and they write a book in 30 days. And I did it, and then it took me about 2 years to edit it and like get it out there in the world. But yeah.
I know. I'm excited. I'm so proud of you because it's a whole process of like feeling like you have maybe a story to share and then actually doing the work. I mean, it's a lot of work, like the editing, like you said, and getting it uploaded or published or any of that.
Yeah, it is. It's quite the process, but it was actually a lot easier than I thought in many ways. So I encourage anyone, if they're looking to write a book, just sit down and do it. Because it feels overwhelming, but if you just start, that's all you need to do. Just write a little bit every day and give yourself like a timeline. I found having a month long like goal, like I had to do this every day for a month, I think really helped.
Yeah, that probably did really focus you and keep you
Hmm.
going. So, all the different countries, what was the first place you kind of like just went off solo traveling? Because for a lot of, I think especially women, we feel still, I think there's still some vulnerability, or we have, our mom is saying, where are you going? What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Well, I think I two things worked in my favor in that regard. One was that my mom, from a very young age, my mom really fostered like independence and travel, and like I would take the bus. I grew up in Hawaii, so I would take the bus by myself, as a 6-year old, like
Oh, wow.
traveling on my own, which was it's crazy to think about now. I mean, this was the 80s and 90s, but like my mom was very much like, okay, you need to learn how to like fend for yourself kind of thing. And like, so she encouraged that. I also, flew by myself, I think for the first time when I was 7. I lived abroad when I was in high school, like I lived in Japan. So my parents always encouraged, traveling and adventure. And so it kind of wasn't that big of a deal to me, to go traveling on my own because I'd been doing it since as long as I remember. So I think everyone's always like, "Oh, you were so brave," but it was like, well, to me, it was just kind of what I did, so it didn't feel brave. But I think the other part of it was just, when you're young and you're traveling, you feel like you're invincible, and like I honestly didn't think about like the dangers. Now, especially I have a daughter, I would definitely be afraid for her. But when you're 20 years old, you just go out and do things, and you don't think about the consequences. So, I definitely got myself into some trouble. But I survived. So
Yeah, and I think that that is true. It's like it's good to spread your wings when you're younger. I mean, I always advise, being cautious, listen to your gut, but the
yeah.
sooner you do it, I think you learn to overcome some of those hesitations. You just kind of have to start somewhere.
Yeah, I think you do it and you realize that the world is not as scary as you thought it was. And and I still believe this even today with all the craziness in the world. Like, I think people are mostly nice, for the most part. And they mean well. So I think if you just trust in humanity, um, and if you believe that, then I think you can go quite a long way. I mean, yeah, you do have to, pay attention but yeah, I mean, I've had horrible things happen to me, in the United States, in my own town that I lived in. So it's like I don't think traveling is necessarily any more dangerous than anywhere else.
Yeah, I think I agree as well. So, if
Yeah.
some of all of the different places you went, was there a place that like surprised you that was better or worse than your expectations?
Um, I guess Colombia, I'd always heard that Colombia was, at least in the United States, our impression of Colombia is that it's dangerous. And everyone told me not to go there. And I went there and I thought people are very friendly. They weren't used to seeing as many tourists, especially from America. So they were very, very nice. Nobody tried to rip me off or steal from me or do anything. I had a very positive experience. They were all very appreciative of like just having a traveler there. And I really, really loved it there. So I think that was kind of surprising in some ways. And then I really liked Poland.
Oh,
Traveling
wow.
around in Europe, I felt like, everybody always talks about France or Spain, and those are lovely places, Italy, but like I really loved Eastern Europe and Poland especially. I thought was kind of off of some people's radars as far as like European travel. But people were very friendly, very nice. I had a great time there. It was cool.
Yeah, I don't think we hear about as much about Poland as far as like
Yeah,
a tourist destination, you know?
I had never, it had never been on my radar either. But I was living abroad in Germany, and so Poland is right in the neighborhood. So, it wasn't too far of a train ride away. So,
I think that's the beauty of Europe. It's kind of like these train systems. It's easy to get to different places.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think we miss out on that in the US. I miss that about Europe.
So what time of year did you go visit Poland? Was it, I mean, I really don't know that much about Poland, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I think part of why I had such a great experience was my friends and I, this was while I was in college, we just hopped on a train and we had no idea where we were going. And we were just going to get on the train and just head in a direction and get off wherever we felt like it. So, like, when we got off the train, we didn't even really know where we were.
Okay.
But it was such a cool adventure. And I think, this was before we had cell phones, but not smartphones. So you could just have an adventure and not really know where you were. And I think I often miss that and wish I could do that again. But, I'm sure, I don't know. I mean, I love having my phone, don't get me wrong, but it did like the spontaneity and then just getting lost and having adventures. I don't have that quite as much anymore with the internet at my fingertips. So,
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think, how do you think the internet has changed how you prepare for travel now? want to do a lot of planning? Or you like try to incorporate some spontaneity still? I think it's a challenge.
It is, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, I love planning, so I do get a lot of enjoyment out of that part of the process. But I mean, oftentimes I will just try to go places and not do a whole lot of research and on purpose. Or I went to Charleston, South Carolina, a few years ago, and my friend and I were just like, okay, we're just gonna hop in the car and just start driving, and we're not gonna have any idea where we went. And we ended up finding this like we got totally lost, and we found a nature preserve. We're just kind of wandering around, and we had like a really cool day. But like we purposely didn't like look up anything to do. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't turn on the GPS. So yeah, I try to do that sort of thing too. But it's very hard because you have FOMO and you have fear of missing out, that you're gonna not go to some big thing that you're gonna regret not going to. But yeah, no, I know definitely. I spent several months backpacking in India before by myself, yeah, as a solo traveler, and this was kind of pre-smartphone, and um, it was really nice. Like I took in 4 months of India, I took 27 photos total. So I just had
Wow.
like a disposable camera,
Yeah.
which now I'm kind of like, I wish I had more photos. But at the time, it was just really nice. I just experienced India. I didn't take photos. I didn't. There was no Instagram or Pinterest, or I didn't have to. I just went wherever I felt like going. And I mean, I had a guidebook, but there wasn't that sense that like, oh, I gotta cross all this stuff off the
Yeah.
bucket list. I just
Right.
kind of hung out with people and traveled around, and like it was cool. The only like major touristy thing I did was like go see the Taj Mahal. But everything else I just kind of roamed around. It was really nice, and I don't think I'd ever be able to do that again. And so it kind of makes me sad.
Yeah, I agree. It's changed because we see these photos of these places, and yes, that inspires us to want to go. But then sometimes I think there's a little bit of either letdown when we actually see it in person.
Yeah.
In a way, I don't know. We miss out on some of the just the joy of discovering something on our own. And
Yeah,
then
and then you get so much information about wherever you're going before you even get there. It's like information overload. And you can't just like look at things with fresh eyes because you're thinking about all the stuff you learned about it before you even got there. It's just different.
Yeah. I like that approach though of just trying to like if you do go somewhere, maybe just have a day where you're like, you know what, let's just go wander and whatever we find, we find.
Yeah, yeah. It's not easy to do, but I mean I like to try to remind myself, okay, would I do this thing if I was in my own city that I live in, or my own town? Like, and if I don't like doing that in my everyday life, why am I going to do it just because I'm traveling or on a vacation? You know what I mean? Like if there's
Yeah.
like some ancient history museum. I'm like, I have no interest in this. Like, so why do you force yourself to go just because you feel like you need to go? So I try to keep myself in mind, like, okay, what would I like to do normally? I'd like to just go to a restaurant or a bar and talk to people. I don't want to
Right,
sightseeing
exactly.
all day.
Yeah. That's a good tip too for travelers.
Yeah.
Because again, sometimes we feel like we're forced to like, oh, if I don't go here, people are going to ask, and you shouldn't take your precious time, if you enjoy going where the locals are going just to have conversations, go do that by all means, have that experience.
Yeah. Who's that author? Um, Let me just look him up. David Sedaris. He was living in Paris. He's kind of a travel writer. And he had never been to the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower. And he lived in Paris for years as an American expat. And he was like, why would I do all that stuff? Like that's not. And so like he had like a famous like NPR reporter come visit him, and he gave him a tour of the grocery store because he was like, look how fascinating this is. Like the grocery
Yeah.
store is so different from the US. And he said that that was his favorite thing to do when he traveled, is to go visit grocery stores. And I was like, that's so true. Like I love doing that too. Like I love going to grocery stores in other countries. And that's not something you would find like on Instagram, but it's fun.
Yeah. So are there places you would go back to?
I tend to like to always go to new places. I don't like to revisit a lot, but I Germany, I lived in Germany and I would love to like re-study the language a bit since I've forgotten a lot of it. In Japan, I lived in Japan as well and I really enjoyed that too.
You've had some amazing experiences. I mean, I know what, yeah, I think that's, and I haven't even gotten to all the other chapters, but
Yeah.
I enjoy how the book like keeps leading you on. It's like you present something and then it's like, oh wait, I'm not going to get the answer to this situation until I
Uh,
keep reading, which is great. I think it kind of keeps giving you breadcrumbs because I tend to be a person that it's like, I need that. I need like some incentive to keep reading it and be inspired. So I thought your way of writing it was amazing.
oh, well, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I know it can take time to do all that. And you still do a lot of writing. You're writing currently for a lot of I think it's the Desert Companion in the Las
Yeah.
Vegas area.
Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of travel writing. I started travel writing in 2009 and I still love writing about travel. I mean, that's my favorite thing to write about. It is harder to be a writer these days, just because all the reasons, like,
Yeah.
magazines are closed down and AI and all of that. But yeah, I mean, writing is definitely my passion for sure.
So are there other things that you hope to I know you're working on a second book.
Yeah, and I'm not ready to quite talk about it, but it is kind of a follow up to my last one, I'll say.
All
Not an
right. Well,
exact
that's all
sequel,
you
but
have to
yeah,
yeah, that's all you have to
yeah.
say.
Just because I want to wait till, my family reads it and stuff.
Of
But
course.
I am hoping to finish that maybe this summer. So
Well, and I like the idea that sometimes it has to be ready to be finished. It's a work of art in a way. It's a
oh
creative
yeah,
process.
yeah. I'm always like, I never share my work until until I feel really good about it. Because you don't want a lot of outsider influence, opinions, so because then that can like it can give you anxiety about your work. So
Yeah, exactly. You also had started quite a few meetup groups I'd read,
yeah.
and at the time, I think meetup is a good way if travelers are interested in connecting with other travelers. Maybe you're new. I mean, a lot of people moved during the pandemic to new communities, and so just for them
Yeah, I
to
mean
connect.
meetup is awesome. Like I met running meetup groups here. Like I would meet a lot of people that were just like here for the day and they just wanted to go do something and meet locals. And so they would just
Oh,
join and like come on a hike with us or whatever we were doing. And then yeah, then we'd never see them again, but that was okay. So yeah, I've done a lot of meetups when I've traveled. I'm couch surfing as well. Like through the website couchsurfing.com. And then just staying in hostels. I think a lot of people don't realize that hostels often aren't just for youth. Like you can stay at one at any age, and I think that's a really good way to meet people. And
and
I
it
mean,
makes it
just
affordable too.
yeah, yeah, and it's a lot more fun, and you can kind of talk to people. Yeah, I like staying in hostels. And I think, talking about like solo travel and um I think, the idea is that, people might get lonely when you're solo traveling and um I would think my experience has been like you're around people a lot more than when you travel with a partner or with a friend because you're so much more approachable. So if you're staying in a hostel or even if you're just sitting in a cafe by yourself with around other travelers because you're by yourself, other people feel comfortable talking to you. You're sitting with like your boyfriend or girlfriend like no one's going to come talk to you. And I often found traveling on my own um I wanted people to leave me alone after a while because I was like, oh my gosh, like everyone keeps talking to me. I'm like,
Right, right.
you're not really that solo when you're solo traveling. I think is kind of a my point I'm trying to make is that yeah, if you're looking to meet people, it's a great way to meet people.
You mentioned couch surfing, and do you think that's still a viable place for people to find affordable lodging nowadays, or maybe some tips? I know there's tons of Facebook groups now that are like host and
Yeah.
sister and like home exchange, and so maybe some tips for listeners and travelers who haven't spent much time thinking about how to do that, or some.
Yeah, I mean, I think any of those options that you said are good. I mean, I think even Airbnbs, like you can stay at ones that where the hosts live there, and so then that's a good way. And a lot of the time, like, I have a friend who does that. And that to me, as an introvert, would be my worst nightmare,
Yes,
having like
I know.
people living in my house all the time, like random strangers. But she loves it. She's super extroverted. And she'll like bring them out with her and show them around and like take and introduce them to people. So like I think if you can get like, and it says on her profile that that's what she does. And so like pe the people that stay there are definitely seeking that out. Like me, if I go stay in an Airbnb, I don't want to talk to the
Yeah.
owner of the Airbnb. Like that's like a nightmare. But um yeah, I think there's a lot of options there.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought too. Sometimes I just, after I've been around people too much, I need some downtime. Like I just want to go to my room and shut the door.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I could ever do that. But I mean, in couch surfing too, like I found as an introvert, I found all of that very exhausting. But so I preferred hostels just because I didn't like being in people's space. But like with couch surfing, you could what I would do, because I didn't really want to stay in somebody's house, but I would just meet people for coffee and stuff. Like
That's
especially when you're
cool.
traveling in places where English isn't the first language, like a lot of people just want to meet with you to practice their English. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, there's no shortage of people that are wanting to meet you. Just as a female though, you have to be a little bit careful.
Yeah,
Because
that's what
there's
I was
probably
just
some like
thinking.
weird guys, but yeah.
And that's what I think I would advise too, is if you're new to using some of these apps, kind of do
Yeah.
your homework a little bit, or even some of those like Host Assist, or I mean, kind of check it out maybe.
Yes, yeah. I had a lot of places where I would go and I'd be like, okay, this person's weird. And like I'd be like, see you later. You gotta be willing to like walk away. Yeah, and like you said in the beginning, like trust your instinct. I think that's really important because usually that if you're feeling like this is weird, and it's easy to talk yourself out of it because you're like, well, maybe it's a cultural barrier, language barrier. Like, no, if you're feeling that feeling, like just listen to it. It's not worth it, you know?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if in your some of your experiences that were difficult, what were some of the signs that you felt like you ignored, or things you could have done differently to share?
Um, I don't know. I think where I got myself in trouble a lot traveling on my own was just being afraid being afraid to hurt people's feelings or make them mad at me or just wanting to avoid awkward confrontations or whatever. And then when you're trying to people please in like potentially sketchy situations, that's just not good. And then the other issue I had was just like not being able to ask for help properly. I had a couple of incidences where, well, one time I was coming from the Netherlands into Germany, and this was in college, and I left my wallet with my passport and all my money and
Oh,
debit card on the bus.
oh,
And so I got off in the train station in Berlin, and I didn't have anything. And I had tried to go to the embassy, and they couldn't really help me. And I went to the police station, and they were able to like write me a train ticket, like a free ticket that I could use to get on the train, but the train wasn't leaving until the next day. So I just
oh,
like had to sleep in the train station by myself and like but I did all of that because I didn't want to call my parents because I was embarrassed because I was afraid I was going to get lectured. But that was really dumb because the train station was very dangerous.
oh
And
no.
yeah, I nothing bad happened, but something almost happened. And so I just would hope, if my daughter goes and studies abroad, that she'd be able to call me no matter what, and I will come and rescue her. And so things like that, I think. You gotta just ask for help if you need it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And have like maybe think through that backup plan because
Yeah.
it's easy to lose your passport. It's easy for someone
Hmm.
to take it or you misplace it, and so now what? Kind of have
Yeah,
something worked out ahead of time.
you really do need that backup plan. And I think I had like just being naive and young, and I just assumed like I went to the embassy and I was like, "Well, you guys can't help me? Like,
Yeah,
you're
that's
the
what I would
American
think.
embassy." I'm like, "Can I just like," they're like, "Well, we can help you get a new passport like on Monday," but it was like Friday evening. And I was like, "Well, that's not gonna help me." I'm like, "Where can I stay? Can I just sleep on your floor?" And they're like, "No, like that's not what we do."
Oh no.
Like, I was like, "But I'm an American. I can't sleep here." There, I don't know. I mean, it was stupid, of course. But I was just like, "Well, where am I supposed to go?" Like, um, so just the reality that you are on your own, like, and so if you're gonna like save yourself, you gotta have like some backup plans. Like
Yeah.
have like a photocopy of your passport or like have some money stored somewhere else other than your wallet. Have multiple places where you have cash in case your backpack gets stolen or something. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot easier nowadays because you can just like, get money to people quite easily, like through your phone even. But back then it was like a lot harder if you didn't have your ID and your debit card. Like, I don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we do. I mean, things have made it a lot easier now. You could have a digital copy or,
Yeah.
hopefully maybe, if you don't, if your phone isn't stolen, maybe you can make that phone call and someone can help you get stuff faster. But
I mean,
yeah.
but sometimes if you lose everything,
Yeah,
you
you're
lose nothing.
still right. Yeah, you
Yeah.
still lose everything.
But little things like even just having your like important phone numbers memorized. Like, you know, I had to learn that recently when I got like my phone had died. I got locked out of my car and I was just like stranded somewhere and didn't have anybody's phone numbers memorized
Oh
because
no.
my phone was locked in the car. And I was like, oh my gosh, like took hours and hours to get rescued because like, and it wasn't that big of a deal, but I was kind of in the middle of nowhere on the side, like a trail I'd gone hiking.
Oh.
So I mean, my life wasn't in danger, but it was a huge hassle because like people are around to like I could use their phones, but like I didn't have anybody's phone number, so yeah.
That's kind of a good tip, like maybe have, do something where you tuck it inside a little pocket, some sort of backup like you said. I mean, we don't think about memorizing phone numbers like we did when we were kids. So it's like I think I'd feel the
Yeah.
same. You've already been like had this happen and now your mind is like, "Oh no, I don't even if someone has a phone, I don't know where to start figuring out how to call them if I don't know the
Yeah,
number."
yeah. I think trying to just be kind of old school about your traveling, I think doesn't hurt. Like look at a map and study it just in case your phone doesn't work and you don't have like Apple Maps or whatever. Like figure out where you're going and get all that information, like just the old fashioned or have like an actual physical map.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think, yeah. I don't know, maybe I'll write a book one day on like how to travel like it's 2005 or something like that because I think the younger generations aren't going to know how to do any of that. Those are good skills to have.
Yeah, I do think they are still good skills to have. I mean, there's still places in the United States where you don't have cell phone service. And so
Yeah.
if you haven't like downloaded your offline map or something, yeah, you could find yourself and now you're not sure, am I getting on the road going that way or should I go that way? So yeah, just looking at it ahead of time, having a paper map or no, teach yourself how to read some of that and
Hmm.
have a
Hmm.
backup.
Yeah, I think that's really important. That happened to me the other day where I went hiking with a friend, so I wasn't by myself, but we had the All Trails map and it it killed my battery and so
Yeah.
we were on the trail, but then we were following the trail, but then my phone died. And so we got lost for like hours trying to figure out how to get back to the trailhead. And we were never like that scared about it because we were like, well, we'll eventually figure it out. But like, there weren't anybody. We were out in the middle of the desert, so there
Oh,
wasn't anybody
wow.
around. We were like on some secret trail somebody had told us about. So there were no other hikers, and we were like for hours just wandering around. And we're like, well, thank goodness we have water and food. But like, we're like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, and I was thinking in my head, I was like, this is how people die because you do hear about that, like how some person wandered off in the desert and they died. You're like, how did that happen? I was like, this is how it happened.
No, no.
Phone dies and you don't know where you are, and like it was a trail that wasn't specific, like it wasn't very clear. The trail
Right.
was not marked at all. So yeah, I was like, it's a good reminder that like even in this day and age in the United States, like stuff can happen.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
where's a place? I mean, you've been so many places. Are there places that you still really want to go and travel
Uh,
to?
yeah, Iceland. I've never been to Iceland, and
Oh,
that's the
wow.
top of my list. Just because it sounds like such an amazing place. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. So yeah, I would say that's the top of my bucket list. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of places I haven't been to. Um, but yeah, I think it's what's cool about having a kid is just like I'm really excited to show her more of the world and let her maybe take her to some of the places that I went to that I really loved. Like I'm from Hawaii and she hasn't been to Hawaii yet. So even just taking her to Hawaii, I mean that I don't even consider that traveling because that's home, but um, I think just letting her see the world, I think is kind of cool. And she
Yeah.
loves traveling too. She's only 4 and she wants to live in an RV or a hotel. So she's
Oh,
only
that's awesome.
yeah, so I've already like influenced her in that way. So it's pretty fun.
That's so exciting. At such a young age, she's already, like you said, wanting to roam and explore. You've already instilled that
Yeah,
little seed of exploring in her.
yeah, she's already been on like, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 flights. Like she's traveled quite a bit. She's only been to Canada, like she hasn't been that far out of the country, but she's been to, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 states, something like that. So yeah, we're slowly exposing her to the world, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
So I got to cut this short today,
Yes.
Rhiannon. But I want to hear more about the family travel. So
Oh,
if you
sure.
guys are listening, Rhiannon, tell people where they can pick up your book. Maybe where if they want to check out your blog and some of your other travel
Okay.
writings.
Yeah. So I have a blog called Taken by the Wind, which I need to get back to. It's taken a little bit of a hiatus, but my book is called Unattached, A Year of Heartache, Hiking, and Learning How to Love. And you can find it basically anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. So yeah, I would encourage you to, buy my book if that sounds interesting to you. It's kind of a mixture of the book Wild. So if you liked that one, and a little bit of Eat, Pray, Love. So if you liked either of those memoirs, that's kind of what it is. Um, and yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. I think that's probably the social media channel I'm most active on, Reannon M. So Reannon and the letter M.
Perfect. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to maybe chatting with you another time.
Sounds great. Thank you, Rhiannon.
Okay.